Now you'll be told the epitome or the peak of mental strength is you need discipline, you need to overcome everything, you need to be hardened. You need to essentially have a mind of steel, essentially unbreakable will. But the issue that even I know that I went through, that a lot of people go through, is unchecked thoughts and emotions, because those are usually what derails everyone. Anxiety, depression, um, anxiety, depression, outbursts of anger. It's all from having an unchecked mind, a mind that's unguarded, a mind that runs rampant. And when you go and you sit and you think about all these thoughts that cause you anxiety, that cause you stress, that cause you anger, all of it is surrounded by sense of self. It's self-centered. It is an overabundance in self-love. And now you'll be asking, like, how does that work? It's because you believe so much in what you deserve and how you should be treated, that you are not seeing what are you doing to hinder yourself from it. You're not really allowing yourself to take a moment to breathe in and understand that the playing field of life isn't fair, that you will have intrusive thoughts, you will have impulsive thoughts, and you'll be doing all of these things that essentially, whatever form of self-love you have, is not there. It's non-existent, you know. Now you'll be like, okay, then what are these intrusive thoughts? It's simply just any experience, you know, any experience. And a lot of these intrusive and impulsive thoughts come about from a sense of fear or a sense of dread. You know, when you get these intrusive thoughts to do horrible things or to do things you know you're not supposed to be doing them, it's all out of seeking comfort, such as even like going straight into impulsive thoughts. You have the urge to do something without consideration of consequences, and these will manifest, right, when you are seeking a remedy for a horrible experience. These become shackles because they are ideas that need to be validated. They provide this need of validation, you know like for intrusive thoughts, right? For them to enter your mind, you need to have an overwhelming amount of different thoughts crossing your mind rapidly. An invasion of ideas that you can't really sort through them, and they filled with hypotheticals, they filled with what ifs, should have, could have, would have. And now these thoughts, they start becoming internal conversations, you know, focused on self. If you go and sit every time you've had an internal conversation about someone, what somebody did, what somebody said, how you felt, you're literally speaking to yourself. You'll find yourself whispering under your breath, right? And it seems normal. It seems normal when you're doing it. It seems like, oh no, I'm just trying to work it out in my mind. The fact that you're experiencing some of those emotions associated with that occurrence, maybe somebody said something hurtful to you, the fact that you can get angry and in your mind shout at them, that's kind of off, that's kind of weird. It's off-putting. You should see it as something that's off-putting. You're not teaching yourself to process these thoughts. You are training yourself to speak to you. Now, obviously, if you're training yourself to speak to you, and yes, you may be having valid conversations, you didn't deserve that, you didn't need to experience that, but it's teaching egotism. It's teaching yourself to be self-centered. you see. Now, what happens is you end up getting so absorbed in these ideas, so absorbed in them that a lot of life occurrences, things that are happening in your life, start following the frame of those thoughts. They just boom. Or you think that everybody hates you, or everybody, let's for example, let's say you are thinking that, okay, no, nobody trusts you and nobody thinks you're gonna make it. Everything you do is going to validate that idea that you're not gonna make it. You're going to do something and it's going to fail, right? And you're gonna keep doing that, keep thinking that way. You need to remember, a lot of the thoughts that you think are true and are factual about you, you need to look at what actually happened. What happened for this to occur, right? What is going on that's causing this to be a reality? Are you taking what you feel, putting it out into the world, and the world is just putting it back on you? Are you accepting that that's what it is, that's who you are? You know? And these things, they become the truth due to them being recurring, never ending. And now your subconscious is working overtime to validate this. That's why they say validated feelings become true, real actions. And a lot of the times you may even be stuck in this cycle of believing your own thoughts about yourself and believing people's opinions of you, is because you're dealing with shame. Shame is a very sticky feeling. It's very sticky. It doesn't leave you for years. Some people still carry around shame for years and years and years, and they never leave it. Now, shame is like a primer for these spiraling thoughts. You have these propositions in your mind. You now creating bargains with yourself that it's either true or it's not, and it's very easy to say that it's true because there's nothing refuting it. There's nothing saying that it's not there. And this is where we get into triggers, your insecurities, you know, where you stop caring about the actual outcome or the actual experience. You only care about what you felt. And this, obviously, your mind is trying to protect itself. The mind wants to be right. It wants to lessen the blow of the shame. So it's just, hey, I can't trust this person because this and this happened to me. Simple and straightforward for your mind to be like, hey, you know what? It's easy to accept. That's just the truth, right? And now you don't actually go in and do the work. You're not really trying to root out what is causing these thoughts, what influences you to have this. Because as a human being, you're a threefold being. There's 3 levels to subconsciousness, right? So the first would be what is called your outer self, right? This is everything that happens on a daily basis, whether it's your interactions with people, places, you're seeing something online and you're reacting to it, right? This is also a form of information that comes in fast and at large quantities. And it's literally quick exchanges. Doesn't take much for any of those thoughts to enter, right? Then a lot of the time you have a filter, a filter. These are like thoughts that once they've made it through your daily interactions, these are things you spend time thinking on. It's, I wouldn't call it inner self such as the soul. I'd call this the jury. It decides, the jury of your mind. It decides what's gonna spend time on, what's gonna accept as true, what's gonna accept as false, right? Now, this will be your various political views, your life preferences, or even your emotions. You feel strongly towards something. That right there, maximum attention, because you'll be meditating, right? And by meditation, I mean you'll be thinking of it often enough that this thing stays on your mind. It's not something that's just gonna go away and disappear overnight. And then you get the inner man. Now this is a plug and play of beliefs, your will. These are things that govern how it governs everything else. Whether this is based on your daily actions, your routines and habits, because that's what it influences. It influences everything. This is the belief center of you as a human being, right? Now, this is important because that is where all of the deep work, shadow work, whatever you want to call it, happens. Now, because of that, because it's such a central hub of everything, you need to learn to identify red flags and deceit, how you lie to yourself, right? Now, this will come in multitude of ways. The worst thing in the world, I'll even start with the first one. The worst one is all or nothing thinking, purely black and white. You only think in absolute terms. Oh, this always happens to me. I can never get that right. I can never do this. I can never see this. You have instances where you'll waste an entire day on what you have to do, right? And you won't do it because it's all or nothing. If you miss one thing, done. You fall into a bad habit once, you go all the way. You don't even give yourself room to understand that you can't get a to-do list done if you've never done it before. If you've never completed a to-do list, you never get it done, right? And that thinking, oh yeah, I didn't get it done last time, I have to get it done now. Oh, I can't do it now. Let me stop right then and there. And that's the problem. You can't be basing your life on a to-do list. Life is not a list. Life is not living. Being alive is linear, but living is exponential. Because when you start having all or nothing thinking, now cascading effect, you get into the habit of labeling. Now everything has a label. A singular event in your life now has this huge weight on you. You look at you literally take a snapshot of your life, and that defines everything. There's no way beyond it. You see, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of your life that, this is just a fact of my life. There's no refuting it. There's no denying it. This is what makes me me. Whether you made a mistake and now you think you'll always make mistakes, whether somebody did something wrong and then you label that person as the worst person in the world. Maybe, for example, something that's prevalent these days is the lack of trust in anybody. You've been hurt by people, you stop trusting everyone entirely. Now boom, now everybody gives you a reason not to trust them. And then that right there now falls into another deeper hole. You see, and you keep falling into deeper holes as you are breaking through the barriers of your own thinking, your own subconscious, right? You are causing these deep trenches in your mind where now you get into the level of mind reading. And this is assumptions of what people are thinking, feeling, what people are saying. You are projecting what's in here onto everyone. You create fantasized outcomes leading to all these biases of your fortune telling, and the truth, and every single thing is going to lead to that thing. And that is the crux of overthinking right there, because you are attempting to be a fortune teller over things, a mind reader of people. Now you're trying to always find worst case scenario, and it becomes a cynical way of thinking. You have a very, I'd say, pessimistic, right? And a lot of people are like, no, I'm not pessimistic. No, I'm optimistic. You have a pessimistic way of thinking because you're at this level, like everything is wrong. Life is sad, doom and gloom. And that's just extremely tiring, because then you fall into mental filtering where you only seek specific details. This is where you find traits of narcissism in people. that everything, every detail about life is about you, about what's happening with you. There's nothing that occurs that, oh, it's not affecting me. This, whatever happened, it's always about you. You downplay your own behavior and you over exaggerate everything else's, everyone else's, everything else is over exaggerated. And you stick to emotional reasoning to validate this. You don't even have evidence. You literally don't have anything to prove what you're thinking. And your should have, could have, would have statements will thrive here because you're trying to create impossible outcomes of things when there's no way that all of this happens just because it's you. It's happening because it's life. You understand? And people don't know how to manage these thoughts. They just keep, it's like a, how would I would it would be like a Ferris wheel. You go up, you go down, you go up, you go down. So you go up just before you can break up, you go straight back down to the bottom. And you just keep doing this over and over and over, right? And you need to know how to manage these thought patterns. Like I said in the beginning, shame is very sticky. So what are you supposed to do with something so sticky that everyone keeps it in it? A lot of the times people become great because of the shame they felt. Why? Because they used shame as a tool to learn, not a tool to discipline. You see, obviously there is a lot of lack of shame these days because people do horrible things to themselves, do horrible things to others. But you need to think of shame, right, as a tsunami. So it's backing up, backing up, backing up, backing up, backing up, and then it hits you. This is where you get all of this regret, people, guilty conscience, or for example, people saying, oh, I felt convicted afterwards, convicted of sin. Like, no, you need the shame you felt before you did it, or maybe the, the previous time you did it. That is a tool to learn. Why are you feeling ashamed? Why are you disappointing yourself? Why are you not upholding the standards that you say you have because you say you love yourself? If you love yourself so much, why are you doing half of the things that you do? If you love yourself that much, you shouldn't be doing those things. Clearly you don't. And that's just life. Now, you need to ask yourself, what level is your self-worth? Self-worth doesn't come out of your mouth. Self-worth is how you live. That's the truth. Look, you can literally live in a horrible place, but your self-worth could be through the moon. Why? Because you're not allowing whatever's happening there to make you do less than doing things that make you less. Not less of a person, but less of how you view yourself. You know, you are giving yourself opportunities for shame. You know, you want to go down this road of self-shaming, and you want to always deal with the consequences of, you want to say, oh, that was a different version of myself that did it. It's not me. But that's you. That is you. Don't try and separate it. Don't try and deny it. Accept that that is a version of you that did it. That was something you took pride in. That was something you enjoyed. You can't now lie to yourself. This way you're gonna become delusional. Who wants to be delusional? So you need to develop a baseline. Okay, you need to develop a baseline of self-adequacy, things that you know make you adequate. You don't need a bunch of achievements. You just need to know why you're adequate. Why do you deserve to not feel the shame that you're feeling? Why do you deserve to do better for yourself? What are you going to prohibit? What code are you going to live by? If you don't live by a code, you live by the rules of your desires. Lack of a code in self gives room for horrible decisions because you're just going with the motions. That's all you're doing, right? And so, you don't need these big life or death prohibitions. You need something small, a thing that you can do every day. Something small, whether you say, oh, I'm gonna make myself breakfast every single day because I deserve it. If you know you deserve to eat, eat. If you know you should be fasting, fast. But don't allow yourself to first slip down this rabbit hole. Then you think, you're gonna use the shame as motivation. Shame is not a tool of discipline nor a tool of motivation. It is a tool to learn. Okay? That's it. Because shame teaches you about yourself. Shame says that, hey, I deserve more than this. It's not, oh, I need to degrade myself into the grave. No. Shame is the baseline where you know what you shouldn't have done. You know what you could have changed. Don't worry about what you need to do. Worry about what you need to not do. Think about the things you're not supposed to do. Why do you do them? And then you need to then transition from that. You need to have evidence of separation where you separate yourself from these thought patterns that cause actions. You need to create a barrier. I'm not saying deny that was you. Don't deny that was you. Accept that was you. But you need to have barriers of where you're saying, okay, you know what? I'm not going to ignore this. I'm not going to brush off these thoughts, but I'm going to examine them. I'm going to be like, okay, I shouldn't have done that. Why? Why do I feel so bad about it? Because I know, you know, PNC. I know there's different people. If you know what it is, you know what it is. If you don't know, you don't know. But PNC, listen, PNC means nothing. It means nothing. Why? Because you shouldn't have done it in the first place. What is PNC going to do for you now? Nothing. You did it. It's part of what you did. It's part of your actions. You can't undo it. Oh, yeah, I should have never done that. I'll never do it again. Rubbish. Right? Because you're falling prey to this fantasy that you're not going to do it again. That you've learned your lesson. PNC is only effective afterwards. That's why it's called PNC. You don't have it in the moment. You lost. You overwhelmed. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You're gonna sit there having remembrance of the past or hope for the future, but then you're gonna go and destroy it anyways. You're gonna keep yourself stuck in the past and you're gonna keep having this empty hope that's not there. You don't even have hope. You say it in PNC like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna do better. But did you do better? Now, PNC isn't just for, if you know, it's not just for that, but it's about waking up to aspects of your life. Do you have that clarity? Do you have that ability to navigate things? You have a very limited time to react to all of these overwhelming feelings and desires, these impulsive thoughts. You have very limited time. So what are you going to do? Are you going to forget it? Are you going to utilize the shame you felt? Are you going to utilize it to remember, hey, I cannot do this. Hey, I need to do this. And are you going to utilize your standard, your adequacy to be like, no, I don't need to do this? Because if you don't form those barriers, those learned patterns, you're just going to be stuck in it over and over and over, and you'll never get out. You will never be able to overcome a version of yourself that you still believe is you, that you still act as. It's not about being a better person the whole time. It's about knowing what you shouldn't be doing and you don't do it. Then this better version of yourself comes easily because the old version doesn't exist. The old version doesn't do those things. Or maybe you'll still do those things, but you'll be better off. Stop trying to become somebody that you're not. Try and become yourself first. If you can become yourself first, then you're halfway there.